All right, welcome everyone. It's a pleasant day today, and we welcome you all to this wonderful event which we are planning today, which we have planned today called, and this the topic, the theme of today's event is all about design for environment, and we have a very elite panel here, and I'm going to be introducing the panel very soon, but you can already see on the screen we have Mandy, Irina, Srihari, and of course Sonil, who are here from all over the world, rather. Mandy joins us from US, Irina joins us from South Africa, and Srihari joins us from Coimbatore. So amazing, and we'll get to know more about each one of them very soon. But before that, I'm going to be talking very briefly about where you are, what this platform is, and what is this initiative of SowtexConnect. I am Gagan Kapoor, and I lead the SowtexConnect initiative of Sotex Network, which is all about learning, engaging, and moving forward together. So let's first quickly talk about what is Sotex Network, since a lot of you may be new to this, and then we will talk about what is SowtexConnect, and then we'll get to know our panelists, and then we will straight away head into the discussions which will be led by Sonil. So over now, I'm moving to my presentation. Quick presentation, not going to take too much of a time, but yes, Sotex, if you can see, it's actually a tech aggregator and knowledge platform which brings business to business network together, bring businesses together, and helps in getting them global connections. It helps you, it gives you smart tools, smart tech tools for sales as well as sourcing. And it also gives you a unified workflow whereby you can connect with buyers and suppliers. And we already have a 10,000 plus member strong network now. Ultimate aim with all of this, what we're doing here at Sotex, is that it's a growth of each and every business, right? What are the various things, what you see at Sotex when I said unified workflow? We bring in on the left-hand side, if you see, sourcing and lead generation tool, real-time sourcing of raw materials, pricing and delivery. We then talk about portfolio management, which is design, records, listing, and e-catalogs, surplus stocks management and liquidation, idle capacity search and updating. Number 3 is our initiative, SowtexConnect, which is online learning management system, which I'll be talking a bit more at length, just in this few slides further. And then multiple interactions with buyers, manufacturers, sellers, vendors, experts, and industry associations. This is one such dashboard which you can see, which actually gives you the live inquiry feeds as well as the live stock feeds and much more which you can do. Ultimately, what we are trying to do with this whole 1.5 years of COVID and everything moving to digital, not only with our systems here at Sotex as well as our learning, we are trying to move everything to digital, and we have been successful to much extent. What we want to do is that we want to move away from the touch and feel market, and still we know that the travels are restricted, that there is digital engagements are still required. So how can we do that, right? Last week, we had Mr. Ram Sareen, the founder of Tukatech, on our platform. He was talking about the digital engagement, and it was amazing to learn from him, right? We want to reduce the consumption of natural resources, and today's topic is going to show you how we want to do that and what are the efforts which are rather being made in this. And of course, our ultimate aim is that we want to reduce the impact on environment and pollution, right? Sustainability is what we want to do, or want to project, of course, right? Now, let me quickly talk about SowtexConnect, the initiative under which this event is happening. SowtexConnect is all about learning, engaging, and collaborating. I would like to thank our event sponsors, DTEX, as well as VN International, and association sponsors. We have Garment Export Association of Rajasthan, Noida Apparel Export Promotion Council, and Indian Importers Chambers of Commerce and Industry, who have supported, who have been with us, and we thank you all for this support. So what is SowtexConnect? SowtexConnect helps the textile community get more opportunities to connect, train, interact, collaborate, and co-create. What can you expect? You can expect more value for our partners, which are now 10,000 plus. In every single day, more and more partners are joining us. What can you expect more? Up to date with the latest industry trends. This is what we want. Get inspired by industry leaders like we have today. Along with that, upskill your business, because we do end up doing a lot of business growth sessions, along with a lot of technology-oriented sessions as well. So our idea is that all our members and people who connect on SowtexConnect get to upskill their business and learn from the best. That's the idea. So what all kind of activities we plan at SowtexConnect? We plan networking events. These are live buyer-seller meets digitally, of course, they're happening these days, but it is really making a difference. We do knowledge series. We do tech innovation sessions. We do fireside chats, and we do business and personal upskilling trainings. These are all what kind of events what we do. And all our idea is that you learn, engage, and collaborate. And what kind of people can you expect to be here on this particular network, on these sessions? We see brands, buying agents, and retail chains who come here to source. We talk about, we have garment and home furnishing manufacturers as a part of the platform. We also have fabrics, trims, and machinery manufacturers, as well as allied services working for the textile industry. So it's all about the textile industry, right? And what kind of people you see large companies, you see medium companies, as well as small companies. Yes, they are all there. And business owners, sourcing heads, sales heads, decision makers, merchants, as well as designers, they all come here to find good connects. Ultimate idea is we all want to bring you all together, want to learn together, and together we would like to create more and more opportunities. Ultimate aim, learn, engage, collaborate. So what really you need to do as a part of, or being a part of SowtexConnect, all what you need to look at is you need to look for SowtexConnect monthly events calendar, which if you become a part of SowtexConnect initiative will be sent to you every start of every month. And all what you need to do is you need to block your Thursday, 5 to 6:30 p.m. Indian Standard Time. Every Thursday, we bring in something or the other. We bring in either a networking event or a knowledge series or a tech innovation session or a fireside chat or some inspiring story from the industry. So what's happening in May and June? I want to talk about the next 3 events. Today, we have the knowledge session. I'm going to be talking a bit more about it. 30th of May, this Sunday, on popular demand, we are bringing in a business growth session. And on 3rd of June, we are bringing in a buyer-seller meet, which is a live meet. Last time we did this buyer-seller meet. I'm going to talk about a little later about this. But on 30th, we are bringing in on automate your business with Google Forms and Sheets. Yes, it is possible. You can do with simple Google Forms and Sheets how you can automate. Keval Kishan, who's a business automation coach, he will be coming there and talking about it. What you get to expect, how to use your Excel sheet data into an automated process for your teams, as well as get your entire business statistics on your fingertips by just using Google Forms and Sheets. This is what you'll get to know on this Sunday, 11 a.m. Indian Standard Time. On the 3rd of June, we are bringing in the buyer-seller meet. It's a networking event series, and it's, of course, a Sotex initiative to create opportunities digitally. In the past 2 events, what we have done in April and May, we created more than 200 opportunities which got created to connect with each other within the event itself. And 68% of all those opportunities, all those people have been connected to each other so that they can start doing business. That is the impact we are bringing in to the market. So our next event is going to be on the 3rd, same time, Thursday at 5 p.m. All what you expect is that we have a lot of buyers who come in, we have brands who come in, and of course, manufacturers who come in. And I would like to thank here our event sponsors, DTEX, as well as VN International, a Garment Export Association of Rajasthan, already thanked, and the other associations. Along with that, DTEX is a company which builds 5-layer masks. So thank you so much, DTEX, for doing that. And of course, VN International, who are into corporate gifting, right? And at this point, our team will also, there are a lot of requests what we get to have the recordings of all these sessions which we do. Only one way to get to the recordings, go to our LinkedIn group or the Facebook group of SowtexConnect. And at this time, our team is going to post the links for these groups on the chat box. Join, be a part of our community, and you will be able to access all the recordings. These are all private groups. You will be able to access all the recordings of all the events which we have conducted in the past. And we want your feedback, not only after the event, but before the event. We want your feedback. What do you want to hear? What do you want to know? What kind of questions you want to ask our panelists? We do want that every time so that you can get benefit, because it's all about you, right? And I want to now talk about the top 8 value propositions for Sotex users before I introduce our panelists for today. You get 30% more business opportunities on our platform out of any other. 200 new leads every month of new buyers and suppliers, portfolio management tools to share, manage designs, stock and capacities, single dashboard for managing your vendors and teams, dynamic website we present to you, give it to you to showcase your company, USPs and infrastructure, digital marketing of your product and services, upskilling tools like SowtexConnect, and live networking events to connect with community across different regions. If you even just count the point number 4 to point number 7, the services like these, if you actually get it done in the open market, it costs you more than 2.5 lakh per Indian rupees. We talk about just about $3,000 approximately, and we're talking about a very nominal fee to be on part of Sotex. Right, now it's the time with this brief introduction of Sotex and SowtexConnect. I want to come to the session for today. Today is Design for Environment, and I would like to introduce first of all our speakers, and after that I will request Sonal to take over and with the session and start the discussion. I would like to first invite and introduce Mandy Kerr. Mandy has spent her career bringing people together. Her innate ability to find what connects people has helped her bring businesses millions in revenues through marketing, event promotions, and networking events. Mandy was at a CBD event doing what she does the best, meeting and mingling. Everyone at the event had the same passion for hemp, but a different way to use it. Mandy started thinking about how to connect everyone in this industry, and thus the Global Hemp Association was born, and rest is history. Welcome, Mandy, to the event.
Thank you, guys. Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Mandy. And I know it is really early for you in US there. So thank you very much for coming in that early. I would now like to introduce Irina. Irina Alexandra Fremantle. She's a senior buyer at Polo, South Africa for over 9 years with a background in luxury men's, women, and children's apparel. Currently, her area of focus is children apparel and overseeing all licenses for the business. Over 20 years of experience in upmarket branded apparel, and with a passion for conscious design while sharing knowledge with the young leaders of tomorrow. And this is why she's again here for. And current role includes trend, color analysis, and range building from concept through the final product, negotiations, and launching into the market. She joins us from South Africa with a nice, little cold, but sunny afternoon. So welcome, Irina.
Thank you very much. I look forward to the session and to speaking to everybody.
Wonderful, thank you. And next, we have last but not the least, Mr. Srihari Balakrishnan. Srihari is the Managing Director of KG Fabrics and President of Sri Kannapuran Mills Limited. Sustainable textiles is their forte, and they make the world's most sustainable denim fabric. Mind you, world's most sustainable denim fabric. They have green denim and product zero in the range of fabrics, which consumes just 15 liters for every kilogram of denim made. This, combined with renewable energy and a very low chemical footprint, deliver one of the most climate-friendly and sustainable denim fabrics. They are the winners of the National Water Award in 2019, and also the first and only green company to make denim in India. Isn't that amazing? Welcome, Srihari. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you, Gagan, and thank you, Sonal.
Wonderful. And with this, I would now like to hand it over to Sonal, founder of Sotex, to take over with the session and start with the discussion. I'm going to unshare my screen so that you all can start right away. Go ahead.
Thank you so much, Gagan. Thank you so much. And thank you and welcome to all the panelists in the room today. And we thank you, all of them, for joining us from various geographies today. And we also thank all the attendees who have been, considerate enough to joining us on this lovely sunny afternoon in India, as well as an early morning in US. So without taking too much of time, let me just start off directly with Irina. Irina, I would just like to start off with you first of all. You've been on the buying side of the vertical, and that's where the entire thing starts from. And knowing that you are also part of a premium label, premium brand Polo, and you are part of the product development team. So in the current scenario, what we see in this, COVID times, and with the change of the complete business landscape, what kind of new developments do you think are coming up now?
So Sunil, firstly, thank you so much to everyone just for having us to share this knowledge on the platform. I think it's wonderful, and we can definitely learn a lot from each other. In terms of developments, there's a lot happening. Being a brand, there's certain challenges that we face because, as anybody says, every brand wants to be good, fast, or cheap or affordable, and you can only ever pick two. That's sort of the rules of the game. Being good is not a compromise for us. However, then we have the discussion of, is it affordable or is it fast? And we need to be aware of that from the discussion. And with new developments coming on board, especially with a more eco or green mindset, there is a time span that has to be considered and built into that. What challenges we face the most currently, especially with COVID, is really having accessibility to the fabrications that are required. Keeping in mind the distance of the countries that we work with. So previously we would travel, or our suppliers would come to us, we would do presentations, and we would make selections from there. Currently that can't really happen. And when COVID was at its worst, all the flights were basically grounded. We couldn't even receive parcels or send parcels out. And what happened, what was very interesting at that point, is that a lot of our suppliers and us bonded, and we grew our business as a result. So we had to learn to trust each other a little bit more and build on that. And there was a lot more communication. Of course, platforms like Zoom became commonplace. So did WhatsApp. And when it came to a fabrication that we simply couldn't feel, was what do we do now? And then we had to find other ways of explaining what the final outcome that we were looking for would be. It was very interesting to find a lot of our suppliers actually created eco journeys that they presented to us, and then we similarly would present that to them. And there had to be a common ground and a common language that had to be spoken to make sure that the end result is what we're looking for. And working in that way, we found has actually been a great success, and we carrying on doing that. In fact, even with things easing up a little bit in our country, we've been fortunate to have a little bit more flexibility. But with that, we found that the techniques and the relationships that have grown have pretty much stayed like that.
Thank you. One major thing, what you just rightly pointed out, the fact that because of the restriction and the movement of samples and everything, so everybody is now coming onto a common platform where people are able to interact based on the digital technologies, if I were to put it in the right way. And everything is kind of getting exchanged digitally right now. So even the samples are being exchanged, and your approvals and everything is coming in that way. Now, a lot of is coming out to the fact that earlier when the demand was higher, or I wouldn't say higher, but considering that whenever the demand was there and we were in pre-COVID times, there were a lot of exchanges of samples going on, and everything was, the journey was all I would say very, very contemporary, as well as on the side that it was all very conventional way of doing the things. Suddenly the COVID taught us how to do business digitally, and we are all talking on the Zoom and everything. Now, with this shrinking of the demand right now, and earlier the concept was that we were kind of creating the lines and we were placing the orders, getting the shipments in, and now we were moving out. Now the thing is kind of changing slightly, and what we see here right now is a demand-based manufacturing and a product which is having a minimal input of raw materials. What kind of products are you kind of designing at this point of time from a brand perspective there?
So from a brand perspective, it's a bit of a more complicated and complex question, because you've got to have, polo is obviously associated with polo golfers. We can't ever not have the polo golfer. So that is something that would translate from the past into the future. But how do we elevate that? What is the next step? And how do we bring our green journey into that? Is it a matter of considering repurposed plastic buttons? instead of our generic plastic button, and partnering with the right people? Is it a process within the manufacturing? Because it's not always as simple as going organic cotton. Just because a brand, for example, goes and uses organic cotton does not make it more superior than a brand that uses commercial cotton, but then at the end of the life cycle of that product actually just disposes of it. Or has like a bit of a, some brands have it where you return the item and then they basically repurpose it, or they bring it back into the environment one way or another. And how we basically looked at that is we are trying to not focus on securing our current business. It's very much about securing our future business. And that is a very, very important mindset in everything we do. Again, it's not about today's business, it's about tomorrow's business. What do we do now to make sure we have a business tomorrow? And that mindset's helped us through COVID. It's helped us elevate our product in a much more eco direction, and also educating ourselves. There are so many exciting things happening in that area. And every time we think we know one thing, there's another thing that appears. BCI cotton is a huge thing, but it's certainly not the only thing. It's kind of old news now. We've moved on from there. As a lot of the other guys will know, on the denim side, there are huge advances and many, many ways you can be a lot more eco. And the brands are leading the way towards that. The more demand that gets created, the more accessible it becomes, and also more affordable. It's very, very important to make things accessible and affordable. Otherwise, the end consumer simply does not buy into it.
Okay. So I just kind of get this point here. So let me just come back to you once again, and let me now just put this question to Mr. Balakrishnan. Mr. Balakrishnan, you run one of the largest greenfield manufacturing facilities out of India for both denim as well as for the cotton fabrics. To make the fabrics more sustainable and reduce the consumption of natural resources, what are the current kind of measures that you are adopting in your factories there?
So what we have done is there are, typical textile mills or denim mills have a range where 10% of the products are eco-friendly, or 5% they use organic for a few percentage of the products, or they use recycled fibers for some percentage of the fabric. And then, it gets, certified as GRS certified or organic certified or BCI certified. There are so many certificates, ingredient brands. Tencel is something from Lenzing. So we said we will have to move away from this. So sometime about 3 to 5 years ago, we said 100% of whatever we make has to be eco-friendly. So the first thing that we did was we started making resources tending towards zero, which means that we reduced the amount of water we were consuming from 100 liters to 6 liters without increasing cost per meter of denim. Similarly, dye consumption, we were able to reduce about 35% for the same dark shade of denim. So we attacked 10 different items, which go into denim, and then made the whole thing fast, which means that we give deliveries next day for fabric across India, across the world, from our factories. So, sustainability is not only, on the material side, you make your material sustainable. Sustainability is not only 10% of the material. Sustainability has to be 100%. Your entire manufacturing process has to be defined as though it's sustainable. And that is the reason why we are the only green co company. Green co in the sense it's a green company which is based on the LEED certification of America, where they define buildings as green buildings. Our entire manufacturing is defined, and we are gold rated last year. So the whole factory is green co-rated, and all the 100% of our products that we make are green products certified by TUV Nord. So the products are certified by TUV Nord, and the company is certified by Green Co. So once we achieved that, the next thing that we worked on is, time. How do you save time? Sustainability of time is, people require faster sampling, people require faster. We have digitized 100% of the samples that we have, probably the only denim company in the world to do so, where you can zoom in 1000% and still not lose the look and feel of the look and of the fabric. And today we deliver samples next second. So what we have worked on is wholesome sustainability, and not some products have BCI, some products have organic, some products are, of Tencel, or some products have something, some products use a green chemical, some products use, that is what the industry is used to, certifications. And I call these certifying agents, and sorry, because there's so many participants, I call them mafia, in the sense they want, you have to pay for those certificates, and then you get certified, and then that gets validated, and then the brands have to pay 10 cents, 20 cents, 30 cents more, and for the fabric, and then there's a cascading cost. So what we've done is we reverse worked, and there will not be any cascading costs on our products, and I think it's been quite successful what we've done. People are loving it. Some of the brands across the globe are ordering next day into Sri Lanka and into Bangladesh, and people are loving to work with us, and that is what we've achieved during this lockdown period. Wholesome sustainability, whether it comes to time or real sustainability.
Great. You just touched upon one very critical part on the fact that the sustainability has to be in the entire ecosystem, right? And you also mentioned about the fact that there was too much dependence coming out from the validation point of view, so especially when the fact that any buyer today in the world, has to go to the validation side or the traceability side. The only way for them to look forward in terms of the sustainable supply chain is what kind of certifications a factory or a manufacturing setup possesses. Now, how do you actually maintain this particular part of maintaining this right validation, certification, also managing the cost efficiencies in your manufacturing vertical?
So there are two kinds of certificates which we have bunched all our certificates into. One is for marketing the products, which is organic, BCA, GRS, those are all marketing certificates. And one is real efficiency certificates, which includes Green Co, Higg Index, to green products, which actually introduce a lot of efficiency into the manufacturing process. We do take this other route also because brands have been sold to organic and BCI and all those things. So we will have to get those certifications, that they are very expensive. We reduce our cost using the other certificates where we are using, when you use only 6 liters of water, that much amount of water you treat less every day. That much amount of chemical you use less, because our dye uptake is 90%. Compared to an industry standard in indigo is about 60%. We take a 90% dye uptake for the same dark 5% indigo, which means that we are able to use 30% less indigo. So we are able to do that kind of thing and match costs of a typical denim. We are slightly expensive. We can't say we are extremely inexpensive and we are able to compete head to head. But when people come and see us and they start working with us, they find that there's a difference in terms of actual delivery of fabric when it reaches them. Probably the only denim company in the whole world where if we ship 100,000 yards, we give it in 2 shades. Most denim companies deliver 100,000 yards in 5 shades. So when we were able to push up the dye uptake, we were able to reduce the number of shades. So we always say total product cost, which is more important. So when the product gets delivered to the brand by a garmenter, the product has to be cheaper. Our fabric might be expensive, but when the product, he has to save money in washing costs, he has to save money in so many other costs. So that is what we take care. So end of the day, total product cost to the garmenter has to be cheaper. So when we save 6 weeks of merchandising time, typically through digital efforts, we save 6 weeks to the garmenting company. And when we tell them on marketing presentation, nobody believes us, and they take the first 200 meters or first 500 meters for sampling, and then when it goes into the system, people are amazed at how fast. Now everybody becomes a fast fashion. Not only Zara, everybody becomes fast fashion when they work with us, and that's what we tell. So fast fashion doesn't need to be expensive. Fast fashion sustainability doesn't need to be expensive. You can be fast fashion and sustainable and still compete, and that is what we tell most of our customers.
Great. Just on one area which you have not highlighted here, you also do a lot of spinning as well as sustainable fabrics. And you just touched upon one single factor, was that you do a recyclable product line also. Can you tell us a little bit as to how you manage all these verticals within the same manufacturing setup, or you have a different manufacturing setups for the entire thing?
Okay, so how we do raw material on the, okay, if I get your question right, on the raw material, how do we manage sustainable raw material? We do it in the same manufacturing setup. We measure year on year. If 100 kilos of fiber comes into a manufacturing facility, 95 kilos gets converted into yarn. With the highest in the world, with time, with practice, with constant practice, we've been able to find it, okay, this raw material needs to go, this raw material has to be, don't sell it away, recycle it for this end purpose. So we make denim, we make industrial fabrics out of recycled yarns. We also make use and throw gloves made out of recycled yarns of making industrial. So we do 3 times recycling. So it's been built into our DNA over time. And what we've done is, so if 100 kilos of cotton comes in, whether it's organic, non-organic, BCA, whatever, 95 kilos get converted to yarn. This has been also been audited by TUV Nord. So, typical industry standard is 85 to 88 kilograms of carded and 70 kilograms of comb, 70 to 75 kilograms of comb. We are at 95. Nobody in the world is close to what we are doing in terms of converting. So similarly, we said when we've done 10 years, we've done it with fiber. Why can't we do it with chemicals? Why can't we do it with yarn? Why can't we do it with water? Why can't we do it with packaging material? Why can't we do what we did with so many other things? So when we take the same philosophy and take it to the other parts, the whole factory. So we are 4 locations in spinning and 1 location in weaving. We have integrated into one large sustainable, reuse of materials, material flows with mass balancing, so that least amount of material is used for maximum amount of output.
Wonderful, wonderful. That's amazing to know the complete end-to-end process being mapped together. Now, let me just come back to another point here, and I want to bring in Mandy here now. Mandy, you have just experienced 2 sides of the equations, one from the buying side, one is from the manufacturing side. And I know you are part of a very different vertical altogether, and you've been pushing hemp as one of the most organic, sustainable product line that is there in the ecosystem now. I want to ask you, first of all, before we go to the other questions, can you explain more about the hemp and the kind of awareness you're building around hemp globally now?
Yeah, so through part of the Global Hemp Association, we host a number of events similar to these, but I am very impressed by your speakers and your guests. So thank you very much for including me in this. But we do the same thing with the intent to bring awareness and information and connections around a new natural resource, and hemp being involved, especially in the textile space, and more around the sustainability. I've been really impressed. We connect from the consumer to the buyer or the garment maker, or even from the seed to the cradle is what we call it, seed to cradle on the sustainability. And so, yeah, we dive into all things hemp. We've spoken to all aspects of the supply chain, and yeah.
So, Manny, if you can just give a drop line to one area, and I see that you often talk about hemp as a better substitute to cotton. And here we have, both sides where one is manufacturing cotton and the other fibers. And of course, Irina, as part of the buying side, they are looking out for the newer products lines to reach out to the consumer. What is that people in the industry can do, and what is that the people can do it in terms of the buying and creating a consumer awareness around the hemp product?
Oh, there's definitely a lot, and I'm sure a lot of you that have explored or looked into hemp understand this, but the supply chain is definitely broken. Finding the manufacturing and the facilities, especially when we're moving from different regions within the world, different areas. But definitely the sustainability and the availability for us to grow the crop with a much lower impact on our globe, from less water, less fertilizer. Now, where it becomes sustainable and where we become viable into these big markets is definitely going to take the processing and building that supply chain. And so I would definitely say understanding, bringing awareness and understanding into the hemp space as to what the specs are or requirements are from our brands. And then also being a resource for brands to know who is able or capable of providing sustainable fiber. Because it hasn't been around for so long, there's a lot of discovery going into how we're decorticating, how we're processing. Is it long fiber, short staple fiber? What's the diameter? What markets are we feeding that into? And then going back to where is it being produced and grown? And so there's a lot of opportunity, definitely around sustainability. I've seen such a large shift from to be consumer driven and a care for where their products are being sourced and made. And hemp has a real story for that. It provides a seed to shelf story that I think we can get a handle on, unlike what we've been able to do with the cotton industry when it comes to the traceability.
So Indian subcontinent is primarily around the cotton, whether it is India, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka. Of course, polyester is somewhere, it's more of a forte with the South Asian countries, whether it's Korea, Taiwan, or China. But Indian subcontinent, primarily from Pakistan to India and Bangladesh and Sri Lanka, all are, based on more of a natural fibers. And what we see here is, of course, the hemp is one of the newest, fiber that people are exploring, and we're trying to understand the qualities. And then, of course, the point is the production. And Mr. Balakrishnan would be the right person to give a comment as to what do you think about the hemp production, what has been talked about in the current times, Mr. Balakrishnan. Have you tried this? You are on mute, Mr. Balakrishnan. Yeah.
Sorry, we have little experience in hemp. We have been doing some hemp products, but we've been buying the yarn. We ourselves have not spun a lot of hemp, or have not spun any hemp, in fact. So it would be wrong for me to comment on hemp. But we are seeing a lot of people inquiring for hemp-based products, and we are sampling. And we've done small bulk on hemp. But people are looking for hemp, linen, other alternative products now. In fact, linen, denim, we've been shipping quite good quantities recently. If you specifically ask about linen, hemp is just starting from our portfolio.
Okay. So now tell me, the question is to all the panelists here. We see that during the COVID times, there has been quite a shift in the consumer life cycle. The production has gone low, the demand has gone low, and we're still in middle of COVID times, and we see that the phenomena is still yet to continue for at least a year, or we don't know. We're still keeping our fingers crossed in this particular area. Now, knowing that the global demand is going to be shifting, and people are looking into the area wherein they want to see something which is more friendly to the environment, something which is causing less damage. Now, from the designing to a production and to a sourcing side, what is the shift that what is that we can see from a consumer lifestyle point of view? Yeah.
So I'll answer that. I think that's a good one suited to myself. Okay, so you first started speaking about COVID and how it's impacted. And for us as a brand, we mostly looked at our consumer and how it affected the buying patterns. Of course, we own our own stores, as well as we distribute to independent stores too. And it was quite interesting because what was happening in our own stores varied slightly to what was happening in other stores where our brand was being sold. And what we noticed, look, in South Africa, obviously we had a huge job losses, and that directly impacted on people's affordability of what they can spend. That, however, didn't mean that they didn't want to contribute to being more conscious of what's happening in the environment and around them. So then it became a cost of affordability, which the conversation changed a little. So we had a lot of discussions where we realized that as a brand, it's our responsibility to try and assist that process. And something that came out of it, again, it's about our future business. So sometimes the decisions we have to make today are not necessarily great for today, but they're better for the future. And this was one of them. Obviously our stores closed for a number of time. There was a lot of losses. We too also took a knock, just like everybody else. However, through that, we realized that we were also very fortunate in being a brand. We had our staples, and people came to us for a certain level of quality. And that also meant longevity of the product. You know, our product is not one that somebody purchases and then they sort of get rid of. It's something that stays in the family. We encourage hand-me-downs. You know, it gets gifted. So it's something quite special that people like to hold on to. And that helps in terms of the circularity of the product. And we started to delve deeper into that and understand why certain things were being bought despite the price point because of their lifespan, and certain things were not. In that, we thought, how do we as a brand support the eco journey, which we want to support, of course, but also at the same time realizing that the rand was weaker, you know, shipping costs were all over the place, you know, just the odds were against us, you know, and basically it was a conversation we had with our suppliers. You know, we had a win-win mindset where it was really about what can they do to assist us and what can we do to assist them. And through that, we looked at a longer term plan. We looked at, okay, I can't pay the extra amount now. However, if we break it up over a commitment of a year, we both get the win we want. What that meant is that when it came to the end consumer, our costs didn't necessarily go up, whereas all our competition put their prices up, we didn't. So yes, we took a knock, but if you look at it as a long-term view, we actually stood to gain a lot more. And that's really worked in our favor at the moment. And we're trying to now leverage that. In terms of what Mandy was talking with regards to hemp, it's a very interesting conversation. It is definitely very new and there's a lot that we don't know. And somebody like myself who receives all these fabrications, there's very little information that gets given to us. And sometimes there's language barriers. There's also a lot of technical jargon that majority of people don't actually know what it means. You know, there's all these big words thrown around and nobody really gets to the root of what it means. Our stronger suppliers have supported a lot of these innovations, and they've created it and communicated it to us in a way that is easily explainable. There's a very open line of communication. When they suggest like a hemp-based fabric, they actually explain why it's good to use it. You know, where do they recommend to use it? In what sort of product line, what sort of silhouettes? Because they also have their own design teams that are also experts. And if we leverage off that, we stand a stronger chance of getting a good end product. It's also about, you know, for brands, it's not about volume so much. It's about quality and variety and
That's
longevity.
True.
So we're the complete opposite, you know, and there's a lot of challenges that come along with that. But that's where new fabrications and new innovations gives us the opportunity to test them in the market. And a customer at the end of the day, we found they want to support it. However, they don't necessarily want to pay extra for it.
Absolutely. I totally, you know, appreciate your very, very clear message to the people at large. One is the right communication, the information about the product, the design team, which has been supported by the supplier side, and of course the price points, because of you know, the current scenarios. Either it's again the buyers, they can't absorb the higher prices. The factories cannot you know, absorb the higher prices. So the entire supply chain, you know, knowing the consumer mindset at the end of the day, we cannot look at increasing the prices. So I want to come back to Mr. Sriharan. You have been the part of the supply chain, and you know, being in the industry for such a long time. Now, in terms of educating the right product lines to the buyer, especially what Arina has just shared about, where do you think is the gap when it comes to the manufacturing of the end product, which is a fashion manufacturing? Where do you see the gap happening there? You're on the mute, Mr.
Sorry.
Yeah.
So we can take the world into two parts in timelines. One is pre-COVID and post-COVID. Surprisingly, post-COVID, the order flow has been very good. We don't know why, but the order flow has been pretty good out of USA and Europe. I would say two particular continents where order flow has been good. Fabric orders have been decent. Yarn orders have been booming. Yarn prices and cotton prices have gone up. Polyester prices have gone up. fiber prices across, I think because of the general trend in commodity cycle, most of the base material products have gone up, which includes dyes, chemicals, etc. On one side have gone up. On coming to other end of the spectrum, consumers don't want to pay much for or want to pay the same amount for the same amount of garment. So on one side commodities have gone up, on the other side prices to consumers almost remain the same. So this has to be compressed between spinning, weaving, processing, garmenting, and the brands. This has to be processed between. This cost has to be absorbed. In between these four different parts of the 4 or 5 parts of the supply chain.
Yeah.
Working as partners, as what Irina said, working as long-term partners with brands, where brands understand that this is how costs have changed. Working with long-term partners with garmenters, working with long-term with cotton suppliers has helped ease out the situation a little bit. But in a commodity cycle, commodity players will not, they're very blind because it's market linked. Cotton, polyester, viscose, or any fiber is market linked, while that is again market decides at what price, because brands compete with each other. So balancing the cost structure has been pretty difficult, I would say, in the last 1 year in a COVID world, because you don't know why the demand is coming. If there's something, it's going to settle down, you can promise something 6 months down the line or 3 months down the line. It is not settling down, and every time there's a wave of COVID, there's a wave of price increase, even though there's a drop in demand. So how do we balance it? There's a lot of mathematics and economics involved. It's beyond us sometimes as to why. For example, I would tell the price of spandex, in Indian rupees. The spandex, which was 300 rupees, today is 1,000 rupees. We don't know why the price has gone up. Across the globe, there's a 3 times increase in price of spandex, irrespective of the country. And people are sitting at home and people want to use loungewear and they want to use more spandex in the products. And when you come to this side of the spectrum, the spandex guy said, our factories are stopped. We're not making enough spandex. You know what I mean? So balancing this has been a challenge for our supply chain managers. They're working day in, day out. But some point of time, this has to settle down. This irrational, I would say, there's an irrational exuberance on the commodity prices. And there's an irrational supply requirement because people are sitting at house and then now are looking at everything newly. They're starting to, I think, looking at their clothes and ordering more. So irrational increase in demand on the textile side. It has to settle down. We are happy that there is an irrational demand, but we are not able to get through a pass-through in cost, which we are working as a supply chain. So this is what I could say in terms of today's situation. There are no specific answers to your question, but there's a lot of irrational equations going on right now.
Mandy, what is that you have to say in this entire conversation with a new innovative product line coming out in terms of fiber?
I hear everything you're saying all the time, the supply chain and the demand and how to find it, where to source it. And I really respect and liked the feedback that we got about, almost dumbing down some of the terminology to help educate and on both sides. There's so much that both the manufacturers and the producers need to know. And so, yeah, I hear what you're saying on the supply. I think that's why I put together what I'm doing on the hemp side is to provide brands and manufacturing companies resources. I'm excited to be connected on this side so that we can help bridge this gap and really bring a new resource that's being sought after by our consumers to the market. Yeah.
So I would say this, of lately, I've just recently, learned a new concept of, innovations. And these are the concepts wherein, of course, these things come into play when you have a problem which has been just cited by Mr. Balakrishnan. On one side, we have a demand which is coming up in a faster way. The supply is not able to keep up and the prices are going up. We cannot pass on the prices. So the only way which, as we currently see and what we need to come out is the fact that innovation, as to how do we innovate the processes, how do we use and infuse the technology, how do we cut down on our R&D cost, and how much we can go out and tell our customers as to what we are doing and how we're doing it a little differently. Arina, I want to come and ask you one more question before we just open up to the Q&A for the members here. In terms of the complete product life cycle, what we also see is the fact that whatever we produce, and now that the concept of today's session is designed for environment. If we were to consider not only for the demand and the supply, we also have to see the environment as a bigger picture, because that's what we're leading out to. How do we pick up a products which can be produced now and be decomposed after the life cycle? If that life cycle has not been created now, you will have like millions and millions of pieces like the COVID medical supplies, which are now going to come in, and we don't have a clue as to how we are going to be, decomposing that, and how are we going to do it across the world. Nobody has the answer completely at this point of time. But even if you were to start it from the fact of a garment, because that's something which we all know, we have been looking at it from quite a long time. And so what is that we can do now, considering that we have new fibers, the production lines been set up? Where do you see things coming up now as part of the brand? Because that's where you start from.
So Sunil, that's actually a very, very good question. I'm glad you asked it. So firstly, from my experience, I've seen it's really about conscious design. I'm throwing up some words, but the whole thing about being conscious design is taking those extra 5 minutes to really understand what we're approving. So from a buyer's side, is really not just because something's a trend and another brand is doing it, we must just tag along. That is generally not the solution, and it's not going to move the thought process forward. So it really starts from the very, very beginning and building a design from the bottom up and not from the top down. So where a lot of commercial brands want to add all these things, we're actually trying to remove and reduce. And there's questions of, do we really need a woven size indicator, or can it be printed in a vegetable ink? It's conversations like that have to be had. Also, in terms of the washing, when it comes to denim, there are incredible things that are happening in denim, but then we look at it, even if we go for a denim that is very eco and we manage to get the price right and there's an agreement, what is the CO2 emissions in terms of shipping it and getting it all into South Africa? Or is it better to look locally, and what are the challenges within that? So it starts from the very, very beginning, before we really actually start briefing the garment and actually thinking what goes into this item. There's a lot more extra time that has to be built into it, yes, but that's really generally upfront, and then it follows through, and then there's a general understanding. Another thing is also the longevity of the garment. It's about choosing good quality fabrics that can last longer, not have a shorter lifespan that can then be, buried into the ground and exposed to the right elements, and it's one with the earth. It's about longevity. For us, it's really about being able to pull that same garment out in a year's time, and it's still on trend, and it's still wearable, and it's in good nick. Very, very important. Again, it's how much packaging does one need? How much tissue paper and poly bags? And if you print the poly bag, is it really biodegradable? Because even the biodegradable side, the conditions have to be right. How many consumers have access to that and really know that, because it's not printed on it? It's communication and learning. I don't believe that brands can ever be 100% eco. There's always some element that's going to come into it. Being in South Africa and at the tip of Africa, we're quite isolated in many ways, but we do tend to look within our own country. And also, there's islands close by there where the duty is cheaper, the shipping's cheaper, your time to get from point A to point B is a lot quicker. And that's something to look at and grow relationships with, again, from an eco perspective. So we look at it as that garment. Firstly, we want to know that we've been conscious in our decision making from the beginning, from the bottom up. Everything from embellishments to the final washing, everything from the trims that go onto it and what is necessary and what is not, where we can reduce. And of course, from the packaging, and then how do we get it to the consumer? How do we get it to the end consumer, and how is it actually going to be used and worn? An area where we've also tried to innovate a little bit is using technology, where we're trying to reduce the amount of samples that one needs. Again, it comes to relationships, a big area where it can be saved from many aspects, and that's embracing technology and things like 3D CADing, It's really about upskilling, knowing how to use those items to our benefit. And we've seen some great results as a result. And it starts internally. You know, it really, everyone's got to be on the same bus. You know, you've got to have one guy off the bus, one guy waving at the bus driving by. Like, everyone's got to be on the bus. And again, also collaboration across departments. In our company, of course, you've got, you know, men's department, ladies, kids, you know, accessories, footwear, licensees, there's all these different elements. Where can we share? You know, is it a single jersey that can be shared? Is it the right weight? You know, how does it get processed? What is it? What happens with the offcuts? Is there anything we can do with that? You know, there's a lot of questions and we have a lot of fun with it.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Mr. Srihari, would you like to contribute anything before we just open up this session?
No, nothing much. You could start opening the questions.
Okay.
Thank you.
So, Gagan, let me just start by taking some questions. We have a whole bunch of it from a few people here. So the question is from Mr. Sudhir Grover, and question is to Irina here. Which country in Africa follows the same buying trends like South Africa? How do you rate quality of Indian suppliers' goods for buying, and what improvements you suggest for India? What kind of sustainable textiles you are preferring from India, as India is a hub of these fabric and finished goods? And what do you foresee in the market in South Africa overall for the kids wear and overall garment industry?
Okay, a lot of very good questions. I hope I can answer them. I've got them here. So the first question was, which countries in South Africa follow the same buying trends, in Africa follow the same trends as South Africa? It's a bit of a difficult question because in Africa, there's a variety of different countries and they're all at different parts within the fashion industry. We do try to be at the forefront of fashion. However, one must remember that we don't generally work on 4 seasons. We generally don't have an autumn and a spring like a lot of other countries do. That directly impacts how we work, and that's generally across Africa. Every country also has its own agreements with importing from other countries. So I think the only way to really answer that is you would have to be more specific into which country and what the agreements are globally with other countries. I can tell you in South Africa, of course, there are certain limitations importing from some countries as opposed to others. And again, it comes to agreements. I mean, I can go to a country where my shipping cost is not so big, but then my fabric comes from Italy, say, and then there's a cost implication of that too. So it really depends on where each country positions itself and relating to their agreements with other countries. The second question was, how do you rate quality of Indian supplied goods for your buying and what improvements to suggest? Actually, a very good question. And I have to be very honest here, we've struggled a lot to bring products in from India. We have worked with India. The main challenge is actually language barriers, big language barriers. And we found in order to make it work, we pretty much had to go through an agent. Every time we've tried to do it ourselves, there's been quality concerns. We ask for one thing, we do get another. We obviously, being a brand, we can't compromise quality. It's all about the quality. And it's not a very cheap thing to do, you know, to be honest. Bringing it in from India, there's shipping costs, there's duty costs, which are far more than if we had to do it locally, for example. However, the one area where India is an amazing opportunity for us is actually soft dressing, and that's more in the adults ranges with regards to women's wear. India has the capacity and the access to some beautiful fabrications. Unfortunately, with somebody like ourselves who are at the tip of Africa, we don't always get to see the beautiful stuff. And it becomes problematic. You know, negotiations can work, but again, having the language barrier in place poses a lot of challenges, and that's on both sides. In South Africa as well, we have multiple languages. And, you know, sometimes explaining something technical in layman's terms is not that easy, especially via technology when we can't physically go there or the person can come here. Then what types of sustainable textiles we're preferring from India, as India is a hub for these. So interestingly, that part of the question, in South Africa, we're not very aware that India is a hub for sustainable fabrics. You know, so there already goes the whole argument. That's not something that ever gets to us. You know, we obviously look at somebody like Mauritius, you know, being an island, they're obviously very sustainable. There's a lot of drives there. So naturally we would look there. But, you know, unless we have that communication that filters through to us, we generally don't go there. And that's a big problem. In terms of finished products, again, what are the options? You know, there's a cost attached to everything, but at the end of the day, if you build traction, the cost can suddenly start being absorbed. So yes, there's an upfront cost, which has to be discussed, but long-term, it really should not be that bad. You know, of course, on the denim side, you know, fabric is expensive. You know, you want the right quality fabric and not willing to compromise, fine. But then where do we compromise? Okay, that discussion has to be had. What do you foresee for marketing South Africa overall in kids and the garment industry? South Africa is amazing in terms of growth. It's a very, very difficult market to crack. A lot of brands have tried and have not succeeded. I believe a lot of brands have also tried, and unfortunately, there's been a lot of circumstances which they just didn't understand the South African market. It's not good enough to bring in a brand with an overseas mindset and they don't actually know the consumer. And the reality is the South African consumer, you know, we generally quite sloppy dressers, you know, casual wear. We get into our cars, you get from home, you get into your car, you go, you don't really use public transport too much, especially if you're going to be on the level of brands. We don't really walk from one place to the other unless we're walking our dog, you know, that sort of thing. So in terms of going out, it's not really an occasion just going out, you know, so people tend to dress up if they have an event to go to or a meeting to go to. Now with people working remotely and being more accessible, the biggest boom is athleisure, you know, tracksuits left, right, and center, you know, in all types of weights, all types of fabrications. There is a bit of a mental block that I found with natural fibers in terms of, for example, organic cotton. If you do like a light color organic cotton, it's got a natural speck in it. A lot of consumers see that as a flaw instead of being part of the fabric. And that's something that we're trying to work around to see how can we better communicate that that's intentional to our consumer. So there are a lot of challenges, but there's a lot of opportunity. In kidswear specifically, it's a very interesting one because, you know, adults will generally buy for their children before they buy for themselves. Saying that, again, a child outgrows their clothes quickly. So being a brand where obviously it's a better quality, the price out market, at the end of the day, it's about passing that garment on. And in South Africa, we're all about Ubuntu and family and working together. And majority of people have more than one child. And it really is about passing it down the family line. And it's big families. So there is a huge opportunity. Absolutely. I hope I've answered that.
Yeah, thank you so much, Rihanna. You were spot on with most of the answers. And I would like to say only on one thing where you highlighted on the main point of being an information which is not accessible from India, wherein, you know, an area which can be bridged together. And through these mediums and through some of our initiatives, we are looking out to reaching out to the global buyers and taking up these Indian subcontinent suppliers all over from India, Bangladesh, China, and Pakistan to the rest of the country. And we see that there is a major bottleneck in terms of the information which has not been passed on. And I think the technology can be one gateway where the information can be accessed through a single platform. And that's where we were trying to bridge out that gap. And we'll surely come out to you with the much more information coming out from India as terms of the you know, capabilities what the manufacturers across Indian subcontinent has. So let me just start off with another question, and we're kind of a little short on time, but we're trying to rush up everyone. Sorry. The question is to Mandy. Do you feel that by using sustainable material and manufacturing process in using the compliant factories, we'll be able to achieve sustainable aim, feel USA, and with use and throw policy in the filling landfills? I think that's a little big as a question. I feel both manufacturers and customers will need to be sensitive and work together to achieve the common aim towards environment. What are your views? So, Mandy, I think you will be able to answer it in a way that what do you think in terms of just you know, using the right fiber to manufacturing, to the production, and then to decomposition of the garment? What do you think from the organic fibers that you know about?
Yeah, so I think there is opportunity, and I'm seeing it on small scale with hemp. And I think where the big benefit is when we talk about sustainability is what benefit comes in the growing or the farming of the hemp. Between the carbon sequestering, the lack of water, the lack of pesticides, that already puts a big leg up against some of the other natural fibers. And then production, we're seeing a lot of opportunity, especially in the US, with innovation to produce with fewer chemicals, unlike a lot of these other opportunities. Or now where we're able to hit scalability, I still, that's up for discussion. So to be able to really fully say, can we be or will we be fully sustainable? I'm not sure. However, the hemp industry prides themselves on the carbon footprint. And so I find it would be a shock to me to find that we bring scalable processing of hemp fiber to the market and not be sustainable, and I think it does come with new technology, fewer waters, the way that it's grown, and then its ability to sequester carbon after the product is made.
So there is just a very relatable question to this, Mandy. What kind of product lines do you suggest people can look while using a hemp fiber? Because that's the key area that you are, popularizing at the moment.
Yeah. I think we're going to see first in the, anything that's a higher or bigger diameter. So our ropes, our non-wovens, we're starting to see a lot of, but our carpets, denim is a big one. Our military uniforms have put out a request for our uniforms to be made. I see a lot of blends coming out for t-shirts, but definitely the feedback that I'm getting is the 100% hemp is a stronger, more sustainable than the blends. But I think that we're still in a lot of discovery to figure out, how is it processed? How is it blended? How is it spun? What's it going into? And what is the wear and tear of its tensile strength and so forth.
Okay, so I'm sure Mr. Balakrishnan would be the right person to throw more light onto this particular area. Mr. Balakrishnan, would you like to answer to that particular question?
We are using hemp in between 20 to 40% of the yarn stage, so which is pretty good. And in denim specifically, we're not able to use it still in the warp. We are yet to technically solve it, but in the weft, yes, good volume of hemp is getting into the weft yarns. The basic fabric structure is far superior or very good. The comfort is also very good. Plus, it lasts more washes. Typical cotton by cotton, if it lasts 30 to 40 washes, this is lasting 50 to 60 washes in terms of hemp. So these are all advantages that we are seeing. So we're seeing an increased interest level in hemp right now.
So there is one very interesting property that has been coming out here is, in the current times, antibacterial and antimicrobial. So do you think these kind of elements, knowing that the hemp is one of the product which gives those kind of properties, so do you think that kind of product can be a potential product for the future?
It is already, because people are asking with the antibacterial properties, because people want to wear it 3-4 times without washing or 5 times without denim, as you know, they don't want to wash it. So all these natural antibacterial properties are playing a role in people requesting for it, because the garment might be expensive, but what they save is washing costs through the life cycle of the product. So we are getting a lot of.
I am curious, and this is a topic that comes up quite a bit, but as the different chemicals that are being used to degum or to remove the lignin from the fiber, I'm curious, or there's a lot of question about that antimicrobial factor based on the way that it's processed and the way that it's chemically treated. And so I think that that's a lot of discovery. However, there's a reason that it was brought back into China for its antimicrobial factors or properties. And so it definitely exists. I think that there's a big discussion about the processing piece and whether or not it maintains that property, especially comparing it to a linen underneath the microscope.
So in terms of the product life cycle, we do talk about natural fibers, natural products, washing and treating the right water consumption and everything. But when it comes to colors, Mr. Balakrishnan, what do you suggest and what is that your company is doing, whether it is, of course, natural colors. What I know from my little knowledge, I would say, is that the availability of natural colors is not that big in numbers. So how do you manage the sustainability factor in that dying stage?
Recently, of late, a lot of startups in India are coming out with natural colors. Pune, a couple of companies, in Erode, a lot of companies have come out with natural dyes and chemicals. Very interesting products. In fact, we have also tried natural indigo on machine. Typically, natural indigo is never dyed on machine, it's dyed in vats, hand dyed. So today we have successfully commercialized natural indigo with glucose as the reducing agent and potassium as the stabilizing agent. We have been successful. We are running about 50,000-60,000 yards of denim every month for kids wear, typically. Product is very expensive because it uses indigo, which goes into hair dye, to be dyed. And we've been able to achieve consistent shade. So natural dyes are, we could see more people asking, more companies coming out with trials, more dye being available in the market. I think if you look at it today, 0.1% of all textiles is natural. I'm talking about machine-made textiles. I'm not talking about handmade textiles. I'm talking about machine-made textiles. In a few years' time, I think about 3 to 5% of all textiles will be made out of natural dyes. Availability is increasing. A lot of biological processes are being invented now as we speak. Bacteria-based natural dyes or real vegetable-based natural dyes. Processing them and using less chemicals or using no chemicals, but using the traditional way, the lost arts are coming back, and I think that is going to be future for that. We are a good case study where 50,000 yards of denim is being using out of the roughly 2 million meters per month that we make. 50,000 yards or 0.05 million meters is natural.
Okay. If I can also just add on to that, some exciting things like you mentioned, the lost arts and crafts are sort of coming back. We've noticed that a lot in South Africa as well. And there was a question that came up in terms of the market of in SA for sustainable products. It's huge. It really is huge. Everyone and anyone, everything from cosmetic products to packaging to apparel, everything. Everyone's doing it. Where it's actually the most exciting currently, besides your standard fabrications, is things like your a lot of people are becoming more like their diets are changing. They're being more vegetarian, vegan, more conscious of what goes in. And with that, actually, the one very exciting thing is things like mushroom leathers, pineapple leathers. We're trying things on orange leathers, where it's exciting because the first thing people do is they pick it up and they smell it to see if it smells like oranges, which it doesn't. In South Africa, we have a lot of vineyards, and one of their waste products, for example, when they stamp on the grapes, it's the skin of the grapes, and they're making leathers from it. It's still very early stages, but there's some amazing things. And we feel being in South Africa, we want to support those initiatives first before we bridge out to other countries as ones. If something exciting is happening in our own country, we of course want to support it and grow it within reason. But there's some really cool stuff happening. And like I said, every time we think we know one thing, there's another thing that happens, and we just have to keep up with it.
So, Rihanna, just one thing, before we just wrap up this session, the entire conversation is gone about in terms of sustainability, and now that you just mentioned that it is coming in fashion across in different segments, not only in fashion and textiles, but it is in all the products that we see around us. But when it comes to cost, and for a manufacturers is always a challenge to create something across the board in different segments, keeping in mind the sustainability as a factor. Now, when it comes to a brand, and somebody who has to put it on the stores in front of the customers, how do you position yourself in a way that, how do you educate your customers that this is a normal product, this is a sustainable product, and that's where the 5% or 10% variation of the cost is. How do you manage that part?
It's very difficult. It's extremely, extremely difficult. We've had some learnings as well. We haven't always gotten it right. The initial thing is put it on social media, put some big talkers in your windows, and everybody will take to it. And we actually found it's the complete opposite in a brand. We've actually changed our whole mindset on it. And in fact, one of the best ways is to actually quietly go and do it. I think it's something that's expected now. I think if you're shopping for a brand and you're paying a premium price, people will pay for the right product. And like I said, it's expected. And it's one of those things where if you're going to advertise it, you don't need to have big banners in the windows and all that to advertise it. It's really about putting a talker within the garment. However, that talker has to be eco too. You know, it's no good putting something with ink on terrible paper with this horrible, you know, like it's all got to talk to each other. So we do communicate very quietly because we do want to get to a point where if a consumer buys our product, regardless, we don't want them buying it just because it's eco. We want them buying it because they want our brand. And then once they purchased it, it's an added bonus that it is eco, and we as a brand are supporting that drive. So I do feel it's a quiet sort of responsibility that kind of runs under the radar. And, you know, we've got a lot of loyal customers, and it's very important to maintain that. Where necessary, we try also support initiatives that are more social and economic where we can contribute. You know, there was recently fires in Cape Town. We tried to connect and donate towards those to support our environment from that aspect. But we're really not about shouting big, you know, what we're doing. I do believe it is expected of us.
Yeah, absolutely. So I want to just wrap up this session but before that, I want to call Mandy. Mandy, you want to say something? I'm sorry, I just, switched over the question. But I think to what just Irana mentioned, you are the perfect example in terms of creating that global awareness. And that's, so I want you to give the right comments in terms of how do we close out in terms of design for environment session now.
Oh, there's nothing like pressure, is there? Well, I was going to say earlier, you know, when we talk about sustainability and all of the aspects that are involved, you know, hemp has played a huge role even in the packaging while we're developing, you know, the opportunities within the garment industry or within the development of different textiles. There's definitely opportunity to increase sustainability to the packaging piece. And I think that, you know, back to what we were saying earlier about brands and, you know, putting out there that we're sustainable, I think it is expected. And I think that it is almost, when we see big brands shouting from rooftops, it almost raises the question of the greenwash, you know, and I think that it really does come back to partnering and relating to where their values are, you know, on a ethical standpoint. So yeah, and again, I welcome everybody to get involved. I love this platform. I love what you guys are doing. Thank you very, very much for your time today. I'm excited to meet and connect with each of you and help be a resource to any of you that are listening. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much to all the panelists. And I hand it over back to Gagan from now.
Thank you. Thank you so much. What a wonderful session. I've been a silent listener to this session, but I can see the value which it created. I can see the messages in the chat box. The questions always talk about the kind of conversation which was happening. And I see some amazing value people have found, and they will keep finding it because we will be posting this to our SowtexConnect group on LinkedIn as well as on Facebook. So people will be able to see the comments and take more value out of it. And at this point, I would like to thank all three of you for making this evening, morning, and afternoon for everyone across the globe so valuable, so full of knowledge and experience. And you all come from various experiences, and it's great to see that kind of harmony coming in with a common cause, which is designing for the environment. So I would like to thank Irina, Mandy, as well as Srihari for this amazing session. And thank you again for coming in here and sparing your time. I know you all are very busy and sparing your time on this session to add value to the members of the industry, to the people from of the industry. And with this, I would like to close this session with our next event's information. As I said, our next event is coming on the Sunday at 11 a.m. India time. And this event is all about how you can automate your business using Google Forms and Sheets, Keval is actually the master at it. He's a business automation coach. And we are looking forward, if you want you as well as your employees. So this knowledge is going to be very good for yourself as well as for your employees as well. The link to join in to this particular session or to log in and register for this session is now in the chat box for you. So please click on the link so that you can register yourself and then you can join us on Sunday. With this, I would like to unshare my screen and thank you everyone one more time for being here today. It's an absolute pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you to all the panelists. Thank you for giving your time. Thank you.
Thank you guys, that was wonderful. Have a wonderful day.
You too. Bye-bye.
You too.
Thank you very much, everybody. That was very insightful. Glad I could contribute.
Thank you so much, Irana, for joining us. And thank you also to Mr. Balakrishnan. We thank you to all the members who have made it possible, to the team Sotex and to the members who have spared out their time in coming and joining up this event from all across the world. Thank you once again.
I would like to thank you to so wonderfully steering the conversation and bringing in some insightful questions among the people and among the panelists so that more value can come out. Apart from the general questions, which of course we had shortlisted. So great. Thank you so much, Sonal.
Thank you everyone.
All right.
Thank you so much once again for giving out your time, guys.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
deal into threads and elastics. So I would just like to add up that this Sotex is a really nice initiative done by Mr. Parminder and his co-founder. And this will serve as a platform to a lot many people who are looking for suppliers, customers, and who can fulfill their needs for all the garment manufacturing needs that they have. And this is a very nice initiative, and I'm very happy to be a part of it. Thank you.
I will congratulate Surtex team for the efforts what they're doing for the industry. And today in the seminar also, it was nice. Few things we got to know and met few buying agent and few of the couple good suppliers of trims. You have a list of good people on board. And I'm hoping that my team has already started doing some